Hey everybody, this is Dan from Reverb.com, and we are at NAMM 2017, and I have the honor and the pleasure of sitting with someone I consider to be a genuine bass icon, Mr. Mike Watt. Hey Mike.
Dan, thanks for having me aboard.
So we have some exciting news from the bass world here at the Reverend booth, and that is Mike Watt has a new signature Reverend bass. Can you tell us a little bit about this bass?
Not just a new one, my first one.
Your first signature, exactly. What can you tell us about this bass? How did it come about?
Okay, it's taken a few years. Actually, I never imagined it. I was playing a gig in Detroit, and Ken and Joe from Reverend come, and they take measurements of my EB3, a bass I was using for gigs. Ended up getting stolen with all the Stooges stuff in Montreal. So they came back the next tour, and they took measurements of the Dan bass, which was an EBO from a couple years. It was 65s, so it was almost like that other one. And then the next tour, because I tour every year, right? They come back with a prototype based on those measurements, but with their ideas. Now, I played it for the gig. It didn't sound right, didn't play right. So I said, I'm sorry, but man, thank you so much for putting all this stuff into it. Well, what would you change? So I gave them a list. I come back on another tour. They bring me another one.
What was on the list?
Whoa. Well, things like about pickup, about the curve of the neck, like we call it the radius, about the bridge, about even the body shape and stuff. It all comes from practical things I like about gigs. Are just so much different than recording. With the recording, I almost always sit down. So I could play a long scale. I could play any bass that sits on your leg. But a gig, I have to stand up. And as I got less younger, my hands got more and more sore. So that's why I went to those little Gibsons. When the odds came, Watt had to move on to another way of working gigs, which meant littler stretches. But still should sound good. Yeah, the E string's a little flabby, but you're not hearing that at a gig so much. And I can still hold the steering wheel after the gig. I mean, that's what happened. I was in Hamburg, Germany, and playing a big non-reverse Thunderbird, maybe 34.5 inch. Yeah, it's what I did the first hour. It sounds good, but man, there was a price to pay. I was getting really bad soreness. So by going to the little one, but the incremental changes, this is what got me. I thought these guys were gonna say, this motherfucker's too picky. They come back with another one. This one, it's a little better, but I give it to my drummer man's girlfriend last year. I think it's maybe the 7th or 8th prototype, and it's the one, man. I started playing it in January, February. I remember the first gig was for brother Steve McKay, who passed away, the sax man from the Stooges. And it was almost the break-in gig to do it. And there was a personal thing. It was for his wife, a benefit. And I was like, man, I like playing this. Because I think the thing about signature, I think a little bit maybe his ego, like, wow, there's something named after. But man, in my case, I'm thinking I would never want my name on something I would not play. If you know about these basses, you gotta have some height. Right. They're not like a Fender where it's the way Leo did the angle and stuff. And I love them too. In fact, I got a 56 I love recording with. Just, there's something about, also the strings are closer this way. That was a big problem with the bridge. Everybody is so used to the Fender spacing, which I love too. You know, they fan out. But with those old Gibsons, the EBs, and also Rickenbackers, they keep it kind of narrow. They don't get wider here. I think Leo was thinking more, the guys wanted to get used to it. So Hipshot came through. Hipshot's got several. That was one of the last things to really get going, is the bridge. Couldn't get the right width, so you had strings hanging over like this. I don't want a guy paying money for strings that ain't on the, you know what I mean? And so, but Hipshot came through, and also, look at that. But I tell you, man, live, and for now 10, 11 months I've been playing, I left that orange one in Berlin so I don't have to take a bass to Europe. So I did a tour over there. I was so confident after doing those gigs. I was like, man, I can put the Dan bass aside. I think the Wattplower. Now the name Wattplower comes from Carla Bozilic. It was her nickname for me. I thought the name should be in the name of the bass so you know who to blame. Like the way I call my opera bands with my own name, so you know who to blame. But actually, it is a collaboration. Joe Naylor, Ken Haas, without those guys, and they made it happen. And they opened mine, and it's a true, look at this. That's really my signature. and this is really my input, and I mean back and forth like 5, 6 different prototypes. This pickup too, Joe Naylor, you know, I always liked the P bass.
Yeah.
I like to bend strings, and I always lose signal. By him coming up with the rails, no dropouts. Yeah, Joe and Ken really open-minded. I don't know if they thought the name Mike Watt. I think they really wanted to make me a bass I would play. People ask me sometimes, what kind of bass player are you? And for me, it's real easy. I'm D. Boone's bass player. It all comes from my experience, because the real politics in the Minutemen, D. Boone called lyrics thinking out loud. He thought bringing the bass and the drums up in the band was political. You know, more egalitarian and yeah. So if there's anything, if I got any kind of silence of it's a lot from growing up with my friend and learning how to make a band and being part of the movement. From the 70s, the pop.
All right, guys, you heard it here first. The new Mike Watt signature model, Reverend guitars, doing amazing work as they do every year. Thanks so much, Mike.